Hey guys, this is the Emerald Gecko here and welcome to another video. In today's video we're going to be talking about how Dark Souls saved me. While that's a strange title, please bear with me and I'll explain in due time. I hope you enjoyed the video and without further ado, I'll let you get on to the main juicy part. All throughout my life I've had really shit mental health. I started going to the mental health services in the UK quite young. And eventually I got diagnosed with autism, and later on, when things really started going downhill around year 5, which is 8 to 9 I think it is if I remember correctly, I started developing OCD, which was really debilitating, especially year 6 onwards. It really became severe and changed my life, and ruined it. I missed out on so much, and as I left school when things really went downhill in year 7, which is 11 to 12, or it might be 12 to 13, it's been a while, it got to a point where I was literally staying inside my room, not being able to leave at all, and it was truly debilitating, and I was not well. I wouldn't say I'm well now, but it was very, very, very bad. My whole perception of reality was warped. I believed absolutely everything was dirty, that I could not touch anything without cleaning it. I was held up in my room. I hardly came out. I couldn't touch anyone. I didn't have a hug or anything like that for 2 years, and that was hard. It's very hard, and it also affected my family quite a lot, which was never my intention. It was around 2019 when I looked on the PlayStation Store and saw a sale going on. I checked the sale and there was a game on there called Dark Souls Remastered for a tenner, which is not that much, to be honest, at the time, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to get this, I'm going to try it out. And I was amazed. I was transported to the land of ancient lords, to the land of Lordran. Like most people when they first drop into Lordran, I was perplexed and confused by this weird world. What was probably even weirder at the time was the fact that every single piece of dialogue ended with the same creepy laugh. As I ventured forward through Undead Burg and to the Undead Parish and, towards the gargoyles, I defeated the gargoyles with the help of summons. At the time I didn't really understand that the game was better when you played without summons, something I'd only realised later, which I wish I hadn't have done. But obviously, up to you whether you use summons, no shame in it, but I feel like there is an experience in these games that you don't get if you play with summons. It's just my opinion, having been on both sides. It was only shortly after beating the gargoyles that I started to lose interest a bit. The game hadn't really clicked like everyone said it would, and I stopped playing Dark Souls Remastered. It was probably a bad decision, but it was only a month later that my dad told me about a PS Plus game, a game called Bloodborne. And so I decided to try and beat this Bloodborne myself. And so I was transported to the land of Yharnam, into the streets of central Yharnam. And holy shit did I enjoy every second of it. Before we go any further, I want to offer a trigger warning because I understand that some of these topics can be difficult to listen to and can be triggering, and I don't want to affect you guys, but I want to give some context to the sort of place that I was in when I first started playing these games, and I really feel like to help you guys understand that context is needed, I thought I'd just give the warning because the last thing I want to do is trigger any of you. Just before we continue, the place I was in when I first started playing these games was very, very dangerous and really not a great place. I'm still not in a great place, but back then things really hit the fan, and I did a lot of things which had lasting consequences. One of those consequences being sectioned in 2023. But there was one thing, even throughout these stressful days, that I could fall back onto: video games. With a click of a button, I was transported to a different world, transported to Yarnum, to Lordran, to Ashina. I was transported to these places, and I got to escape the painful reality that was my life. And that helped in more ways than one. I could fall back, I could relax, spend hours trying to beat a boss. That rush of beating a boss was truly unlike anything, and I absolutely fell in love with these games. And as 2019 went on, leading into 2020, things really started to get even worse. I mean, when COVID hit, it brought about so much stress. I mean, my OCD was starting to get better. It was, until COVID hit. Because everyone was telling me to do exactly what I'd been fighting so hard not to do. Clean your hand, wash your hands. It brought back my struggle with OCD worse than ever, and I never really have recovered from it. While my mental health was going to shit, I decided to set myself a goal. I wanted to beat all the From Software games without summons, something I hadn't done before because, well, I just hadn't, and I thought, why not now, seeing as though lockdown was going to be for a while. And this was a great decision because as everything I knew, my life, fell apart to mental health and COVID, From Software's games were there, and I played them hours and hours and hours on end. And even though I kept dying and repeating over and over again, I still continued playing because these games truly made me happy, and they truly saved me on multiple occasions. It was my distraction, my coping mechanism, as silly as that sounds. And when I say in my videos, thank you From Software, I genuinely mean it with every fibre of my being. Thank you for making such amazing games. The storytelling From Software's games are so good that it feels like you're right there. Just like the first 17 pages of Fellowship of the Ring. The way Tolkien writes that first 17 pages, it's virtually a glorified list of world building, but he writes it in such a beautiful way that it's like a story, even though it's literally just a list. I think that shares a lot of similarities with From Software's games, because although you'd think a list would be boring, it's actually beautiful and magnificent, just like the levels, the story and lore inside of these games. As the years went on, I played many From Software games. I fell in love with Sekiro and platinumed it. Same with Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3, Dark Souls 1, and eventually, when it released in 2022, Elden Ring. After the long and strenuous journey waiting for Elden Ring, it finally arrived, and I was hooked straight away. I was blown away by the story, I was blown away by everything, the graphics, the gameplay, everything. Although I'd been invested in previous From Software stories, this was the first one that I could truly dig into by myself and discover the lore for myself, because when I played the other games, I just looked up what happened, but in Elden Ring I decided to try something new. I decided to find and discover and make my own conclusions on the lore by myself without interference from outside sources. I love you, VartyVidya, but I decided this time to try and figure it out on my own, and it couldn't have been a better decision. This decision led to me saying, you know what, I fucking love Elden Ring, let's make some content. At this point, when I made this decision, I had created a YouTube channel 6 years prior, back in 2016, I believe, yeah. And I hadn't uploaded in quite a while because I'd lost that passion, you know, that drove me to make the videos in the past. But with Elden Ring, with my new knowledge of the lore and my understanding of it, I started making content for Elden Ring, and the main sort of content that I did was Elden Ring lore, because I absolutely fell in love with it and wanted to share my knowledge of what I'd gathered over my journey in the lands between. And my channel grew. It grew while everything really was going terribly in my life. This was something that was going great. I had comments coming in, the content that I was making was actually benefiting someone, even if it was just a few people, and that meant the world to me. Because that is one of the main reasons why I did Elden Ring lore, was so that some people who didn't understand certain bits of the lore could get a better understanding. That was my goal, to help people better understand it. It was just after this little bit of time that I started developing hallucinations that were very stressful and a voice that only kept getting louder. This was a really, really difficult time, and I got sectioned. I was placed into a psychiatric facility, and it was some of the worst days, and is some of the worst days of my life. That's not to say these kind of things don't work for some people, just in my experience, I was one of the cases where it didn't. And I had to take a hiatus from YouTube, as I wasn't allowed to do YouTube inside the psychiatric facility, because obviously I wasn't allowed wires or anything like that, and it was very restrictive. But yeah, you see, I was sent into hospital at the beginning of August, just when everything with the channel was starting to pick up speed a lot, and I had to take a 2-month break because I didn't have home leave and I couldn't make videos. Eventually I did though, and that was really a highlight because YouTube had been something that I had grown to love, and it was part of my routine. I would make a video, edit it, make a thumbnail, all those sort of things, and it meant everything to me. So when I got admitted again for a second time, and it was even longer this time, 3 months, I can't say how sorry I am that it took me so long. YouTube and fromsoftware are everything to me, and the fact that I had to take such a long break from playing the games and making these videos was really disheartening to me. But I am semi-back now. I get home leave on the weekend, so expect more videos. And that brings us to the end of the video. I hope you all have found this informative and enjoying. I hope it's also shed some light on how fromsoftware has saved me so many times. Thank you, Miyazaki, thank you, fromsoftware, and thank you to all of you who watch these videos and who make my day even more brighter. Thank you. If you did enjoy the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribe. You don't have to, of course, and a dislike is just appreciated. Anyways, guys, I'll see you in the next one. May you all find your worth in the waking world.